They were a special class of members designed to execute Yorha units. But you knew that, right, 9S?
Shut up! Shut up! What do you know? You don't know anything at all about us!
Proposal. Cease combat. Fighting her at this point would be
Pod
irrational
153, I order you to halt all logical thought and speech. This order shall remain in effect until you confirm the death of either myself or Unit A2.
Alright, welcome back to Mawg Games. Now, today's video is my initial raw thoughts of ending C, D, and E of Nier Automata. Now, I have just finished the game. Literally 15 minutes ago, I finished the game, set everything up on the computer, and started recording this audio. Alright? This might end up being scatterbrained. It might end up being all over the place. I'm not sure. I'm going to try, alright? I am still in a processing mode, honestly, for what I just witnessed. The end of this game gives you a lot, and especially with the multiple endings here. But we'll get into that. So, we're still processing a lot of information. There's a lot of thoughts going through my head. Trying to remember sequence of events, but it's all so fresh that it's honestly, it's a jumbled mess right now. It is a jumbled mess in my head, and I'm going to try to regurgitate my initial thoughts of the ending of this game and how it stacks up as a historical great, essentially. It's supposed to be one of the greatest stories ever told in video game history, and we'll get into all that. We're going to talk about the ending, kind of what happened, I guess, and we'll get into how this stacks up with some of the other great games with amazing storylines in the history of all of video games. With that said, it's a good game. It's a damn good game, and the ending is impressive. It's impressive. Jeez, okay? The absolute destruction of everything that we loved. It was impressive, I'm not gonna lie. It was impressive that they went that route with a lot of these places. You have the destruction of everything that you touched in the game. Anything that you went by and interacted with, like, essentially has been destroyed in one way, shape, or form by the end of the game. You had A2 is dead, 2B is dead, 9S is essentially dead, Pascal's village is destroyed, and he had his memory wiped, and he's now selling pieces of his dead children, you know? Like, that's scrap. Oh my god, like, that crushed me. That was the first thing that actually crushed me in this game. And, like, there's so many emotional moments, and you wanted to feel them. Some of them I don't think they pulled off. That moment when you go back to the village and Pascal's there, selling off the dismembered body parts of his village, his villagers and their children, as scrap metal and trash, because he doesn't remember, and he's doing it so cheerfully. Like, I don't know why they left all this garbage around. It's just like, oh my god, man. Absolutely crushing. Absolutely crushing. It's a damn good game. It's just a damn good game. I am not ready to say this is one of the best stories of all time, though. Because, now, this can change on a second playthrough, okay? Because on a second playthrough, now that you know the story, you will see things in a different light as you come across them. And it's going to be like little fireworks and light bulbs going off when I'm coming across this stuff. So, and I need time to actually, like I said, like 50, like at this point, what, maybe 25, 30 minutes ago, I ended that game. And it's still bouncing around in my head. It's all bouncing around in my head like a jumbled mess, and it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time for me to sort all this and to you know, how do I feel about it and what have you. So unfortunately, I cannot give like a this is the greatest story of all time. There's some problems with it. There is some problems. As good as this was, there's some problems with it, and we're going to get into that. Let's go over the endings really quick. Now, as we're playing through, we have 9S's descent into madness, okay? You see him just, you know, and it's frustrating because he was the character that had all the pieces to put the entire story together. He had all the pieces, and instead of following the breadcrumbs and figuring out the mystery, he goes off the deep end and totally abandons it. Doesn't give a fuck, you know, what is going on anymore, and is just hell-bent on killing everyone and everything. Yeah, so it was frustrating. It was frustrating to watch, and that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. For story-wise, like, it was frustrating because it's like you knew, like, you saw, like, he was getting all the pieces, and to me, he was going to figure it out. But then you see him starting his descent, and you realize, like, the further he goes down this descent into madness, the further away he's getting from the truth. And, like, at one point you realize it's just not going to get there. He's not going to make it there. He has too much momentum pulling him into his madness just to stop it from now. So, you know, you realize that even though he has all the pieces, he's not going to put together the story by the end. He's not going to figure it out. And that's exactly what happened. He was too hell-bent on destruction, and that's what he got. So, you know, you have 9S, and by the time it comes to that final battle between him and A2, I wasn't feeling him anymore as a character. Like, to me, he was the bad guy at that point. He was the biggest villain in the game at that point of the story. But so let's just go over ending D. Alright, we're going to pause the video right there because there is something very important that we have to talk about before you get into the rest of the video. Now, in this video, you are going to constantly hear me refer to ending D, okay? Remember, this was right after I finished playing the game. Got the endings jumbled up a little bit. Every time I refer to ending D, I am referring to ending C. Not one point in this video do I specifically talk about ending D. When I talk about ending D, I am talking about it through the context of the lens of ending E, okay? So every time, and I'll label it going forward, but every time I say ending D, it's ending C. Back to the video. You know, maybe it's a little bit of the nihilist in me. I mean, I don't think so, but you know, to me, I don't expect every story that I view or read or, you know, participate in to have a happy ending. And I think too many films and games and books and stuff like that want to push those happy endings on you, whether they make sense or not. To me, the theme of this game and how all the pieces fell into place, and then how they all fell like dominoes near the end, I felt like ending D was actually more fitting. It was a more fitting end, because it's kind of in line with the entire theme of the game from the very beginning. You know, just all the destruction everywhere. Everything you touched is just ruined, destroyed, mutilated, deformed, whatever, you know. It's all been molested in some way. Games, books, movies, they don't have the balls to drop those endings on you very often. And when they do, if it makes sense in the story, I can appreciate it. Now, if it's coming out of left field just for the sake of wiping everybody out, like, yeah, you know, that doesn't work. The way I think they did ending D, I thought worked amazing. Now, I know technically ending E is the ending. okay? And it's a more hopeful ending where it's like, yes, everything's dead, but the Ark is actually sending the machine hive mind out in basically light form to travel the galaxy until it finds another planet to basically do this same thing again. I mean, they felt like it was like a happier, like, you know, hey, come with us kind of thing. But I feel like if they ever do find another planet, that it will devolve into the same thing by the, you know, after maybe thousands of years, who knows. But, you know, so the machine life forms are traveling the solar systems and the universe looking for another home. They might be out there in light form for thousands of years, and they may never find a home. You have A2 and 9S being rebuilt by their pods, who their pods have now gained a sentience and have basically split from the network after the bunker went down and decided to start calling their own shots. And it's the pods who are facilitating the rebuilding of 9S and A2, and they're going to try to essentially bring them back to life using their memories so they get another shot. Will it be exactly the 9S and the A2 that we have at the end of the game? No. But it's still close enough to those versions that we could feel good that, you know, they're getting a second chance here. You know, and I just think that's a softening of the ending that was unnecessary. I don't know. I'm still like that. I'm still battling between these two endings, 'cause I really like D, but how you got E was very, very unique, and we got to talk about that real quick. The going through the ending credits, like you're hacking, and getting all the, you know, eventually getting the help from all the people who have played this part before, and getting the messages to either keep going or to, if you're going to quit. And every time you die, getting the, you know, morale boosting messages like keep going, don't quit, you're almost there, all that stuff. And then at the end, getting the option to sacrifice your save file was very, very unique. You know, you sacrifice your save file to help, to have your guy in there to help another person once they get to this point of the game. It's very unique. It's a very, very, very unique, and it's probably the most unique way to end a video game I've ever experienced. But yeah, I just felt like E took away from the ending of D, and I know that E and D are supposed to be two different things. I liked D better. And, you know, even though technically 9S, I guess, was going to get a second chance in D, I felt like he barely had a chance in D, whereas in E, I think him and A2 have a very good chance, and I don't think he deserves it. I think he is a flawed machine. Like they said, they knew they made him basically too smart, and 2B was not a battle unit, all right? Like they've been saying the whole time, she was an assassin unit, and her main job was to follow 9S around, and when he started poking his nose where it wasn't supposed to go, or he started going off the deep end, she was supposed to kill him before he destroyed everything, which is basically what we saw happen. 9S facilitated the destruction of everything we loved in this game by the end, and everything our enemies loved in this game by the end. So, you know, it's a good game. It's a damn good game. But like I said, there's problems. So we've gone over the endings. Let's talk about some of these problems, all right? Like I said, there's a lot of themes that this game touches on. The pursuit of beauty, okay? You touched on that. You touched on religion several times, on politics, on what happens when a group doesn't have a purpose, on how we had the aliens and, well, at first we thought it was the aliens and the humans both kind of fighting a proxy war, all right? And they each kind of seemed like they offloaded a bunch of their responsibilities onto these other entities. So they basically put the control of their livelihoods in the hands of androids and machines, kind of how we are doing right now with automated systems and AI, and kind of how if you put too much in those baskets and you're reliant on them too much, if they collapse, that could be your undoing. That could be the end of your species. You have that aspect going on. You have, like I said, the religious zealots going on. You had the very basic revenge is bad theme and motif going on. So it touched a lot of these, and there's more. There's plenty of examples that I can't even think of, right now off the top of my head. But there's all these little themes and motifs that the game touches on throughout the playthroughs. But I feel like if we were having a conversation with the game just brought up the topic and then moved on. Like, oh, so what do you think about, searching for love through beauty? Okay, and how do you feel about, thinking religion will make you godlike or what have you? It's just like it brought up the topics, but we didn't dive any deeper. It was kind of a superficial, well, what about this? Well, what do you think of this? Well, look at this over here. And we didn't go deeper. And so while it brought up a bunch of interesting points, it never expounded on any of them, really. Besides, like, the revenge, because that was a huge theme of the end of the game, and you just saw the trail of destruction that it left behind. But all the other ones, it was pointing it out and giving you like a general, yeah, this is bad, right? But not like really exploring it any deeper than that. And so it gave a superficial feel to some of the themes it was trying to push through in its story. But it didn't take the time to explore any given one of them, other than a cursory, take a look over here and check this out. What do you think? This is bad, right? Yep, let's move on to the next thing. Now, like I said, I didn't do a ton of the side quests, all right? So maybe some of that is in those quests. I feel like the main story should do the deep dive, okay? And like the side quest stuff, if you're going to expound on the main storyline plot, it should be in an accentuating way, what's the word? Should be like an accent to the main story and not integral for you to understand it. So it should just be reinforcing points in side quests if you're tying the side quest stories to main storyline of the video game. That's just me though, hey. But, so some of this stuff might be buried in the side quests, and it'll answer some of my questions, or it'll dive deeper into some of these topics that it brought up but never went any further with. So that's like a big criticism of mine for the story of this game. Right now, while I'm processing, I could say it's a good game. It's a good story. It's a damn good story. It's a solid 8 out of 10 story. A 7.5, 8 out of 10. Right now, initially, just trying to piece together everything that I just witnessed over the last few hours playing this ending. But right now, I can't say that this is the best story ever of all time. This is or even belongs in that category. Like I said, probably because I'm still processing, and it might take a second playthrough to me to get all the nuance of the storylines in this game. And B, I feel like it was it was a bit superficial on some of the topics that it wanted to cover, and it felt like it wanted to get more profound, but was either didn't have the time to really take the deep dive, or was afraid to have to make too much commentary one way or the other and give up the kind of moral ambiguity of the topics. I don't know. So, that's a big reason right now. But, and the fact that I didn't get like what was going on 100%. I didn't like foresee everything, but I pretty much saw how this story was going through the first couple of playthroughs, and to the point where there was a lot of shocking stuff at the end of the game. But it was, again, superficially shocking, like the destruction of Bunker. That was a shock. The destruction of Pascal's village was a shock. But it had nothing to do with the main storylines necessarily. Like, the game didn't have to do those things, and it doesn't change. It changes things a little bit for the ending, but, you know, those were just kind of like outlier things, I feel like, that weren't tackling the main topics and the main questions, the main themes of the main plot of the video game. So, you know, like, all the major things, I kind of got the gist early on in the first playthrough of ending A. And I was in the ballpark. I was at least in the ballpark with what was going on from the very beginning. And to me, you had to subvert my expectations if you wanted this to be one of the greatest video games of all time. A perfect example of what I'm talking about with that is The Last of Us, okay? To me, one of the best stories in video gaming history, bar none. And it's all because of the ending, okay? I have never had a game give me the ending I want. All right, I wanted Joel and Ellie to be together at the end of the game. I wanted them to be safe. I didn't want Ellie to be sacrificed to the Fireflies for, you know, some bullshit experiment. And I get exactly what I wanted at the end of that game. But I have never had a game or a movie give me exactly the ending I wanted and made me feel so goddamn dirty about it. When she asked Ellie, or Joel, to tell her the truth, and asked if he promised this is the truth, and, you know, and he lied to her.
No matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear right now.
Swear to me. Swear to me that everything that you said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
Okay.
Like, my heart sank, and it's just like, no, Joel, not like that, not like this, don't do it like this. And that's how they do it, and that's how it ended. And I got the ending I wanted in a way that made me sick to my stomach. That's the ending we got, and to me that was fan freaking tastic. It subverted my expectations, okay? Because I saw where the story was going. I didn't know which way they were going to end it. They ended it the way I wanted, but it's like you get that gut punch and that knife twist at the end to be like, yeah, don't enjoy this too much, all right? So, you know, this game didn't necessarily do that. Not in ways that were meaningful. Pascal's Village, like I said, was a shock that they went there and they did that, you know, and yeah, you kind of saw it coming, like, as, like, that big battle was happening, but then to come back to the village and to see him like that was crazy. That was crazy. But if, you know, you don't have to go back to that village, and you don't ever have to see that, so that doesn't change the end of the game any. So, you know, it's like I said, I need a second playthrough of this. I need to actually process, okay? It's not really fair for me to grade a game after I'm still, like I said, this is fresh. This is going on 45 minutes, all right? The 30 or 50 minutes, like the 35 minutes I've been recording, and the 15 it took me to set everything up after beating the game. So, you know, it's not fair while I'm still trying to process and everything's really fresh, and things that have happened earlier are kind of muddied and vague right now because the new stuff's in my head, and, you know, all these pieces are going to start coming together over the coming days and weeks, and, you know, I might have a different perspective after I actually have a chance to sit and really process and think about how everything unfolded in the game. And like I said, it might take a second playthrough even to find the nuance in the storyline and to notice the pieces falling together earlier in the story. I'm sure there's a lot of nuance and a lot of subtlety that was missed without knowing the storyline in the first playthrough. So after a second playthrough, after some time to process, I'm going to revisit this. I'm going to come back because, like I said, I wanted to love this game. I wanted this to be one of the best video games I've ever played in my life, storyline-wise. And it got up there, but I don't think it quite cracks that threshold. All right, it's good. It has me thinking. It has me, I enjoyed the experience. Absolutely 100% enjoyed it. But, I was judging this game against other games that I think have the best stories I've ever heard or seen or played in a video game or a movie or a book or what have you. And, I feel like it did not live up to that expectation. So that's why, like I said, I wanted to love this game. I enjoyed it. And I think it's a good game. So I want to give it a chance to marinate and see if maybe I gain appreciation after a little bit of time. All right, so this won't be the last you see of Nier Automata on this channel. We will have a further, like maybe a deeper analysis video of the endings. We're kind of through the raw thoughts phase and into putting the pieces together and formulating, profound theories on what happened. Once we get to that point, we're going to sit down, we're going to reevaluate everything, and I want to give this every chance possible to become one of the greatest video game stories of all time in the history of video games, like I was told it was going to be. But it's not there yet. Like I said, we'll give it a chance, we'll see if we can get it there, but right now it's not there. But it was damn good, and I enjoyed the hell out of it, and I'm going to play it a second time. It's a good enough game for a second playthrough. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully after a second playthrough, we'll understand it a lot better, and we will have a much different perspective on it. But only time will tell. You'll have to wait until we get that one out, and we get the time, we'll do it, and see where we're at. But that'll do it. Like I said, 8 out of 10. All right, it's a tier below the greatest stories of all time in video gaming history right now. To me, it is a tier below. It is in that good, not great category. So we'll see if that changes. But that'll do it. That'll be the video. Thanks for watching. Mawg Games is out. Peace.
You may not receive thanks for your efforts. Some may say that your efforts are purely for show.
Don't ask
Do
me
you
again.
still wish to help?
Oh, no.
And you are truly sure
fuck
about this?
You.
Very well. In exchange for all of your data, I will convey your will to this world.
Oh, that's fucking brutal. So, what the fuck? No! It's taken everything. Oh. Oh my god. It's going through one by fucking one and taking everything.